everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Now, over the last few days, I've been taking a look at the McFarlane Toys Batman the Animated Series wave of 6-inch action figures. Each one of these 4 figures came with a Build-A-Figure piece to make up the Condiment King. So today, I'm going to be giving you my thoughts on this figure. Before we dive into that though, I did want to point out there are actually an additional couple of releases that have come along at the same time as this first wave of figures, not for general release. Sadly, a Target exclusive is the Alfred Pennyworth figure. This looks like a really cool figure, comes with a lot of fun accessories. This figure was never released initially on its own when it was part of the DC Collectibles line. It came as part of the Batcave set, which did look absolutely tremendous. So it's nice that McFarlane Toys have released this independently. Unfortunately, he's a little bit tricky to track down, and I sadly don't have him in my collection just yet. The other release, of course, is the Bat Cycle. Again, this was released previously. Again, another tricky one to get hold of at the time. I believe it lights up, and I think this is a pretty cool piece. It's definitely something I'm really keen to add to my collection because I did buy a lot of the vehicles for the DC Collectibles line, including the Batmobile and the Batwing, and I've covered those on the channel. But this looks like a really fab piece as well, and it also comes with an alternate helmeted Batman head as well, which is really cool. So this is one I'm desperate to try and get my hands on, and if I ever do get these, I will cover them on the channel. But enough of that, because today we're here to talk about the Condiment King Build-A-Figure. Now, I have to say straight off the bat, this was a surprising choice. It wouldn't have been my first choice, to be honest. If I was going for a Build-A-Figure for the animated series, I probably would have gone with Man-Bat. But on the other hand, I do think it's very, very cool that we got this figure, because this isn't one that has previously been produced in the line, I don't believe. In fact, this may be his first ever appearance in action figure form. So I'm absolutely delighted to be able to add a brand new character to the line, even if it's not one I'd ever really consciously thought about. In terms of the sculpting, yeah, once again, I think they've done a really nice job. This is very much in keeping with the animated style. I think they've done a really good job there, particularly with the pointed nose. I think it looks really, really good. I like that all the elements, like the eyebrows and the shades, are actually sculpted in. This is really cool. And there's a lot of detail here, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, as you will know, with this line, McFarlane Toys have opted to use cell shading, which is definitely going to be a mixed bag in terms of the reception for a lot of fans. Some people love it, some people hate it. I happen to really like it. However, where I take issue is when they use this sort of mustard colour on faces. I really trashed the Robin figure for this. Spoilers if you haven't seen that video. But here we see it again, and I really don't like this. This is really distracting, and it looks weird. It just looks like he's got dirt on his face, and it just looks a bit odd. Now, the rest of the cell shading, when we look at the rest of the body, I think it works really well because it's that kind of shadow effect, and I think that looks fantastic. Gives it a lot more depth and texture for me, and it definitely captures the spirit, I suppose, or the essence of what we see on screen. So for me, I love that. It just doesn't work on the face for me. It just looks really weird. But otherwise, I think the sculpting's really cool. His proportions all seem to be pretty accurate, and I think they've done a nice job all in all. Looking at the articulation, and he does have a ball joint at the base of the neck, so he can spin his head all the way around 360 degrees, and he can also lean it left and right, a pretty huge range there, which is fantastic. He can also nod it forwards and backwards, more forwards than backwards in truth, but a pretty decent range of motion here. Now, there's a ball joint in the shoulder allowing the arms to kick up and out. There's a pin swivel at the elbow that will allow the forearm to rotate all the way around, and of course it will hinge to about 90 degrees. There's a pin swivel at the wrist, so again, that wrist can rotate all the way around, and it can also hinge forwards and backwards. There's a straight swivel at the waist, so he can move side to side with no issues. Sadly, no ball joint here. He does have ball joints in the hips, however, and he can kick his legs out to the side, he can kick forwards, and he can kick back a little bit as well. There's a double joint at the knee, so that lower leg can kick all the way back, and then we have a ball joint in the ankle, allowing the foot to hinge forwards and backwards, and lean left and right a little bit as well. In terms of accessories, all he comes with is his backpack and, of course, his condiment guns. And I think this is pretty cool. They're joined together by a thin cord, which is pretty cool. They plug into the backpack, and I think this looks works pretty well, to be fair. I like this approach very much. There's nothing else I would want for this character. There's nothing else I can really think they could give him, so I think they've given the full whack here. So in terms of my star rating, I'm going to give him 3 stars. Now, overall, there's nothing really inherently wrong with this figure. I think for the most part, they've actually done a really nice job. It's great that we have a brand new character. The sculpting's really good. It's consistent with the other figures in the line. I think the accessories he does have are quite fun, true to the character. The cell shading, for the most part, works pretty well. It's nice to see some paint apps on these figures. And I think it's a decent figure in terms of articulation as well. It's not air-shattering, but it's certainly not bad by any stretch of the imagination. That being said, you know, I'm not happy with the cell shading on the face. I don't like that colour. I find it really distracting. That might just be me, but it's a little bit strange. And then I think, all in all, I think the figure's always going to be battling against a slightly underwhelming quality because it's not a very well-known character, really, and he's not the most impressive figure in the collection as a result of that, which is maybe a little bit harsh. That's certainly not the figure's fault, but at the same time, I don't know, maybe he could have been released a little bit later in the line. As I said, for me personally, I would have gone with one of the more bigger characters as a Build-A-Figure to kick off with. That said, I can totally understand why McFarlane want to do something new since most of these other figures have already been released. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like and remember to subscribe as there'll be plenty more videos soon.